So when we talk about trigonometric ratio, we are talking about specific triangle, and that has to be right triangle. And what's a right triangle? It's the triangle that has a right angle in it. And what is a right angle? Right angle refers to 90 degree. So it's the triangle that has a 90 degree in it. And it's called a right triangle. Okay. So in order for you to use a sine, cosine, tangent, it has to be right triangle. Otherwise, it's not going to work out. Okay. Next. Now, we have the 3 trig ratio, and it's called sine. You pronounce it as like a road sign, okay? But in terms of a symbol, you write it S-I-N. You do not want to pronounce that as sin, okay? People might laugh at you when you say that. It's a sign, okay? And I will explain what that means. And we also have, I can erase that. We've got sine, cosine, and then tangent. Now, what it is when you have a right triangle, okay, the ratio between just two sides, you pick two sides, and then it will either fall into sine, cosine, or tangent. Okay, you can create like a 3 pairs of two sides, isn't it? Sine represents its opposite to hypotenuse ratio, okay, which is this side and this side, okay. Cosine has to do with adjacent and hypotenuse, these two, okay, that's cosine. And tangent has to do with opposite and adjacent, which are this side and this side. Okay. Now, I know it still doesn't quite make sense of what we are doing right now, right? Probably. And that's okay. And I expect that. But again, hopefully we'll tie everything together at the end. Now, what it is, for example, if you have a, let's say like a certain angle measurement, let's say this is 30 degrees, okay, then the ratio between two sides is always the same, no matter how big the triangle it is. If it is a 30-degree triangle, then the ratio is always 1:2. It's always fixed. If it's big, for example, if this is like, let's say 5, then this one is going to be 10 because it's 1:2 ratio. It's always double or a half relationship if it is 30 degrees. Okay. If it's a 45-degree, you don't need to write this part here, okay? But I'm just trying to hopefully make sense to you. If it's like, let's say 45-degree, then this side and this side is always going to be equal to each other. It's a 1:1 ratio, okay? So each angle has a different ratio to it, fixed ratio. And if we know that, then we will be able to solve for unknown measurements, okay? And that's eventually what we're aiming for, okay? But again, I may not be making much sense to you right now, but I just want you to kind of remember on the corner of your mind, just leave it there, that each angle measurement has specific ratio to it. Angle 1, if it is, the angle is just one degree, then it's got specific ratio for two sides. Okay. If it's angle 2, then that ratio is a little bit different. Okay. Angle 3, angle 4, and so on. Okay. Now, so do you guys have this in your notes? I hope I wasn't interrupting you or copying down. Okay. Aurora, why don't you talk to me at the end of the class, okay, about your question. Okay, so now the first step of dealing with sine, cosine, tangent problem is to name the three sides of a triangle, okay? Because it's a triangle, it's got three sides, right? And there are names. There is a name for each side of a right triangle, okay? One is opposite. Let's write it down. OPP, I'm just writing down OPP, but it stands for opposite. And HYP stands for hypotenuse. That's a funny word there, right? Hypotenuse. And then the last one, ADJ, that's coming from adjacent. Okay. Now, how do you know which one is which, right? Now, each problem that you're going to deal with, there is always a focus angle. And in this case, right here. Now, the symbol, this little oval shape with a line in the center, it's called theta. Okay. Theta is one of the Greek letter, like a pi, theta, you've heard it before, alpha, omega, delta, those are all alphabet, Greek alphabet. Did you guys know that? Yeah. And theta is one of them. It's just a fancy name for saying X, okay? But math people started using theta for angle measurement specifically, okay? So there is the focus angle, which in this case it's a theta, and opposite is called opposite because it is opposite side of theta. And that's why it's called opposite, okay? So you kind of shoot an arrow from theta or focus angle, and that side that you hit, that's called opposite, okay? Next, hypotenuse. You need to know where hypotenuse is. I think you may have heard of what hypotenuse, have you not? Have you heard the word hypotenuse? Now, how do you know which side is a hypotenuse? You know that this side is a hypotenuse because that's right, it's the slanted side, right? That's the hypotenuse. That's right. And the way to identify that is it is the side across from this 90-degree angle. That is always the hypotenuse. Because I could draw the triangle like this. Now, where is the hypotenuse? Do you think this is the hypotenuse? And that's not hypotenuse. Hypotenuse is the side across from this 90-degree. So in this case, hypotenuse is on the bottom. It's always the across from 90-degree. Okay? Does that make sense? Now, once you identify opposite and hypotenuse, then the third side has to be adjacent. Okay. And you need to be able to identify, you need to write it down, the name for each side for all the problems. Okay. At least for the beginning part. Once you do a more and more, you will start to see, oh, okay, this is opposite, hypotenuse, and adjacent. You can find out easily. However, for right now, we need to write it down. Okay. All right. Let's work on the example. Do you guys all have, does anybody need more time to write this down? Okay. Let me give you just a little bit more time to catch up on writing, and then we'll work on examples. Yeah, that's a good question. There's a question about identifying an opposite. Let me tell you here, and I think that's a good question. Opposite really depends on where the focus angle is. For example, if theta is right here, then opposite is this one, right? It's opposite side of the theta. That's opposite. But let me draw the same identical triangle. But if the theta is over here, it could be that, okay? 90 degrees is always 90 degree. But if the theta is over there, where do you think is the opposite is? Opposite now is going to be this one. Maybe you can add this in your notes. So opposite depends on, and hypotenuse depends on where the focus angle is. Does that answer your question? But the hypotenuse is always a hypotenuse. This one is a hypotenuse. This one is a hypotenuse. But then this one is adjacent. This one is adjacent. Okay. So again, the hypotenuse and adjacent could be either side, depending on where the focus angle is. Theta can never be on the place of a 90 degree. Very, very good question, Stephanie. That's right. Theta is either right here or right there. Okay. But the 90 degree is 90 degree. Theta is, we will never have a focus angle on in the place of a 90 degree location. Okay. So what we are going to do, we are not going to solve anything today, okay? That's tomorrow, okay? But today we are going to learn how to set up the equation. And then we'll take it further tomorrow to solve for unknown measurements, okay? But right now we do know all the measurements except the angle measurements, right? But the theta is right here. Okay. And what I want you to do first, so I want you to copy down this angle, a triangle with all the measurements. And then I want you to label all three sides. Hypotenuse, opposite, hypotenuse, and adjacent. So let's do that. You guys know what I'm asking you to do? I hope I made it clear. Well, actually, let's do this together. Okay, I don't want to leave anybody behind here. So, do you guys all have that triangle in your notes? So the first step is to label, right? And then the focus angle is right here. So the opposite is the 15 right here, okay? This is the opposite side. The hypotenuse is the side across from 90 degrees. So this is hypotenuse. That makes 8 meters as adjacent. Yeah, is everybody okay on that? So you need to do this for each problem, okay? Now, next, we're going to just set up an equation, okay, or a fraction. And that's what we are just practicing right now. Now, I guess I forgot to really talk to you guys about this part right here. Sine of a theta is a ratio between opposite and hypotenuse, okay? And then the cosine is adjacent and a hypotenuse, and tangent is the opposite and adjacent, right? Each one is a little bit different, isn't it, right? And to help you remember this equation, so to speak, those are equation basically, okay? You take the first letter S O H, right? That's what SOHCAHTOA is. Okay. It's just a way for you to remember cosine and tangent. Cosine is CAH, C-A-H, which is coming from C-A-H. And then TOA, T-O-A, is coming from T-O-A, right there. Okay. So according to sine function ratio, I should say, sine is defined as opposite of a hypotenuse, right? So what is the opposite? Opposite is a 15. So it is 15 over hypotenuse is a 17. 15 over 17. And that's the answer. That's we are not trying to solve for anything right now, okay? We're just learning to set up each ratio, sine, cosine, and tangent. Let's do the next one. How about cosine? Let's give a little more room here there. Now, cosine is this one defined as adjacent over hypotenuse, isn't it? So what do you think it is? What's the fraction? Adjacent, which is 8. So it's going to be 8 over hypotenuse. So that would be 17. You guys with me? Last one. How about tangent? You do this one by yourself. And show me your answer in the chat. What is tangent of theta is going to be? Very good. Thank you, Stephanie, Lawrence. Anybody else? I want to hear from all of you. What's tangent of theta going to be? Thank you, Aiden. And in this case, it is tangent is opposite over adjacent. So that would be 15 over 8. Right? Each one is a different ratio, right? Each one is a different pair of two sides. Okay. Again, sine is dealing with opposite over hypotenuse. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. And tangent is opposite over adjacent. Now, Tigra, I hope you just come in, right? So hopefully it will make a little more sense at the end. Okay, so just try to go along with us, okay? So what I want you to do now is we're going to work on the assignment together, okay, in class. And the worksheet, this worksheet is available in Canvas. And if you go to modules, you can download this the worksheet, but you do not need to do that, okay? This is, you can just keep working in your notes, and what I want you to do is I want you to set up the ratio, and that's all you need to do for this assignment, okay? And we'll go through that couple of questions together to show you how to do that. But right now, I want you to write down in your notes homework 4.1, okay? And then let's get ready to begin. You don't have to start from new page. I mean, I don't know. Eventually, you have to take a picture of your work, right? All of your work. So again, for those who are new, you're going to take a picture of your work in your notes, on your notes, and you're going to take a picture of it and then send it to me in Canvas. And that's how I collect assignments. So you can start it from a new page, or if you want to just make sure that you have all the assignments in one page, or it doesn't need to be. You can just take a couple of pictures and then send them in. Okay, so let's do the first question. It says tangent of z. In other words, the focus angle is right here, z, okay? And the first step, I want you to label it. So let's do this together. Okay, so write this down, copy down that triangle. The opposite is, it's opposite from the focus angle, which is, in this case, z. Yeah, Tigran, I'm gonna ask you not to ask that question, okay? If you need to go, you go, okay? But I just want to make sure that you have the correct answers, okay? So you might want to stick around and, just make sure that you're on the right, your answer is all correct, okay? So opposite is that, and then hypotenuse is the side across from the 90 degree, right? And then adjacent is the 28. And this question is dealing with a tangent. Okay, now let's write down SOHCAHTOA again here. Can you guys all spell out SOHCAHTOA? So is S-O-H, yeah? And this is how I write it. Some people just write SOHCAHTOA, right? And that will be helpful too. But ka is a C-A-H, h, then tangent to okay. Now this is a tangent problem, so we need to look at that. So your answer is tangent of z is going to be equal to what? Well, tangent calls for opposite over adjacent. So what's opposite? Opposite is 21 over adjacent is 28. And that's it. That's the, you're done for number one. You are practicing of setting up the equation right now. And again, tomorrow we're going to take more step further to solve for unknown measurements, okay? Number two. So why don't you do this all by yourself? Number two, cosine of C. So the focus angle is C. I'm going to label it and set it up. Equations. We're talking about 21 over 28. 21 divided by 20, which is 0.75. Yeah. Now you can change it into a decimal, but at this point, please don't do that. Just leave it as a fraction. Okay. 21 over 28, which is a 0.75. That's a great point. Yeah. Yeah, please leave it in fraction because in many cases, you will not be able to solve divide evenly, perfectly, right? In that case, you probably are forced to round off, which will lead you to a wrong answer eventually. So you don't want to round off numbers, okay? So just leave it as a fraction. Okay, so number two. So opposite, again, is this one. Is the 34. And adjacent is the bottom one. Okay. And so cosine of C equals what? And cosine is this one. And cosine calls for adjacent over hypotenuse, right? So it is 16 over 34. Did you guys have that? And that's the correct answer. 16 over 34. Okay. You ready for number three? So work on number three. Ooh. All right, so number 3. Again, the focus angle is right here, C. So opposite is still this side, it's opposite. Hypotenuse across from 90 degree, and adjacent is 21. And sine of C, sine calls for opposite and a hypotenuse. So it will be, opposite is 28. Yeah, so does that make sense, Tigra? Just take a look at this one. Sine is opposite, which is 28 over, so it's opposite over hypotenuse. And then a hypotenuse is 35, isn't it? So it will be 28 over 35. That would be the answer there. Does that make sense? Let's try number 4. Again, the focus angle is this one, X. In this case, it's a letter X. So what's the tangent of X? Again, let's label it first. Let me see the answer for number 4. Everybody, type in the answer once you find it for number 4. What is tangent of X? What's the fraction? Yeah, why don't you take a look at this? I think the labeling, it might be, yeah, so Tigra, just take a look at this, okay? So you have to label the sides of a triangle first, okay? First is opposite. Which side is opposite? Opposite is, it's always the opposite side of the focus angle, which is X in this case. So the opposite is right here. Next, you need to identify adjacent. But the hypotenuse is the side across from this 90 degree. So in this case, hypotenuse is the 40. And then 24 is adjacent. And this problem is tangent, right? And tangent calls for opposite over adjacent. Yeah. So take a look at that. So this is, we are trying to figure out tangent, right? So tangent of X equals, tangent is opposite, which is 32 over adjacent, which is 24. Okay. Number 5. Now, number 5, the arrangement of a triangle is a little bit different. Now it's kind of rotated, so you got to be careful about that, okay? Now the focus angle is, for number 5, is A. It's right here. So where is the opposite? Opposite is this one. Where is hypotenuse? Hypotenuse is the side across from 90 degrees. That's hypotenuse. That means the top side, that's adjacent. That's a little different, isn't it? Right? Next, we are looking for cosine ratio. So let's take a look. It's really messy now. So what do you need for cosine? Cosine is this one right here. You need adjacent over hypotenuse. Okay, so cosine of A equals, what's adjacent? Adjacent is 30. 30 over 34. Did you get that? Who's got 30 over 34? Yeah, very good. Let's keep going. Number 6. Yeah, it has to be 30 over 34. Not 34 over 30 or anything else. It's got to be 30 over 34. Yeah. Okay, 1 minute. Let's label. Focus angle is A. Here's the focus angle. So what do you get for number 6? I don't know, maybe some of you are already done or being ahead. What do you get for number 6? Okay, very good. Thank you, Stephanie. Lawrence? Yes. Thank you, Aiden. So let's begin. Opposite is this one. 32 is opposite because the focus angle is this A now. It's not C. It says sine of A, right? That means the focus angle is A right here. So opposite. Hypotenuse is on the bottom side right here. 40 is hypotenuse. Adjacent is 24. And we want sine of A. It's S-O-H, right? SOHCAHTOA. So we need opposite. O means opposite over hypotenuse. What's opposite? Opposite is 32, and the hypotenuse is 40. So 32 over 40. Okay, 4 more to go. Okay, and we'll be done for today. I'm gonna give you about 2 minutes to just finish all of them, and then let's correct all at the end. Okay. Let me get a cup of water, and I'll be right back. Number 7 will be 24. Yeah, no, Tigra. So let's do this together, okay? Everybody keep working on this, okay? So for number 7, focus angle is Z. It's right here, right? So which side is the opposite? Again, you have to label all 3 sides in order for you to be successful in this. Opposite is this one, 24. Does that make sense? It's always the opposite side of the focus angle. If the focus angle is this X, then opposite is going to be 32. But this question, again, the focus is Z, so the opposite is 24. Does that make sense? And then the hypotenuse is the number side across from the 90 degree. So that's height. What's going on? Okay. Okay. Monitor is doing something weird here. So this is a hypotenuse. I'm afraid to touch the screen. And then this is adjacent. Yeah, so 24/40. So the sine of Z equals, it's SOH, right? Sine is opposite 24/H is a hypotenuse. 24/40. Yeah, you got it. Number 8, let's just finish all the rest. Again, it's a sine, but the focus angle is, this time it's right here, C. Guys, right there, sine of C. So the opposite is this 14. Hypotenuse is across from 90 degrees. So this is a hypotenuse. And then adjacent is on the top, 48. So sine of a C equals its opposite over hypotenuse. It will be 14/50. Everybody good? Okay, last two questions. The focus angle is Z right here. So opposite hypotenuse adjacent. And this time it's cosine. How does it go? Cosine of a theta equals so ca C A H, right? It's adjacent over hypotenuse. So cosine of Z equals adjacent, which is 24 over hypotenuse 30. Yeah, not 18. It's not 18 over 30. I mean, does it, are you wondering if you're labeling? You cannot, speaking to all of you guys here. You cannot skip the labeling part. And if you have the label wrong, or if you're just trying to do this all in your head, you might make a bunch of mistakes, okay? You've got to write down opposite, hypotenuse, and then adjacent. You've got to do that. So here's the last question, guys. The focus angle. It's either going to be C or A, okay? Not, the focus angle will never become that hypotenuse, the 90 degree. It's always one of the two angles besides the 90 degree, okay? In this case, it is C because it says right there, okay? So the focus angle is C. Now let's do this together, okay? Tigra, tell me which side is the opposite? And I'm speaking to all of you too. Which side is the opposite? And the opposite is always the opposite of the focus angle. So this is the opposite. And then hypotenuse is the side across from the 90 degree. So this is a hypotenuse. That means this one has to be adjacent. And this one calls for tangent. How does tangent go? It's a toa, right? So ka toa. Tangent of theta is T O. It's T O A. Toa. Toa. Right? That's what tangent is. So tangent of C equals. Do you want to tell me that? Hey, Tigra, I'm going to put you on spot. You can just tell me direct message what the tangent of C is going to be equal to. It's opposite over adjacent. Opposite is 27. So it's going to be 27 over adjacent. And adjacent is 36. 36. How did you guys do? Are you getting that? Okay. I know I said this many times, but tomorrow we will take a little bit further and actually use this skill to solve for unknown side of a right triangle. Okay. And so that's what we're going to do tomorrow. But this is uh, pretty much it for today. So please make sure that you take not this the monitor, okay, but you are going to take a picture of your notebook, and then you're going to submit that picture in Canvas. If you are not quite sure how to submit your picture, then please remain in the class. Otherwise, you guys have a great day. Thank you very much for your attention, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Take care, guys. Okay, you guys all good? Are you guys doing okay? I don't know if you're still here or if you can hear me.